So, let's dive into a massive shift in how crime is investigated. For centuries, a crime scene was a physical place, something you could put yellow tape around. But today, the evidence is everywhere and nowhere at the same time. It's scattered across servers, clouds, and phones all over the planet, which brings up a really tough question.
This is the absolute core challenge for modern law enforcement. When your crime scene has no borders, no physical walls, where do you even start looking for clues? It's a puzzle that basically forces us to throw out the old rulebook and write a new one from scratch.
And to really get our heads around this, let's just put the old way and the new way side by side. The differences are pretty staggering, and they change literally everything about how an investigation has to work.
Right. Think about the classic TV detective show. The crime scene is contained, it's physical, the rules are clear. Evidence was something you could touch, a fingerprint, a piece of paper, DNA. Well, the digital crime scene is the complete opposite. It's global in an instant. The evidence is just intangible data, IP addresses, metadata, and jurisdiction. Oh, that becomes a tangled, confusing mess of international laws that often contradict each other. You can't just put police tape around the internet, right?
So with all that chaos, where do investigators even begin? Well, a lot of the time, the first clues aren't tucked away on some secret encrypted server. They're actually hiding in plain sight, scattered all across the public internet. The trick is knowing how to find them.
And this is where something called open source intelligence, or OSINT, comes into play. Basically, this is all about gathering information that's already publicly available. We're talking about a geotagged photo on social media, a public business record, a comment on a forum. This isn't about hacking. It's about the meticulous work of piecing together the digital breadcrumbs that people leave behind for anyone to see.
Now, when it comes to OSINT, investigators have two main strategies. On one side, you've got passive reconnaissance. Think of this as being a silent observer watching from a distance. You're gathering intel without ever alerting your target. It's super low risk. But then you have active reconnaissance. This is when you start, digitally knocking on doors. You're actively probing a target's systems. You'll get way more detailed, real-time info, but it comes with a massive risk. They might just realize you're there.
And I have to stress, this is not just random Googling. Real OSINT is a disciplined, professional process. You start with a super clear goal, you identify your sources, you collect the data, and then, and this is the most important part, you analyze it. That's where you cross-reference everything to separate fact from fiction and build an intelligence picture you can actually trust.
But OSINT can only get you so far. What happens when the trail on the open web goes cold and the most critical piece of evidence is locked away on a private company's server, like a social media giant or a cloud provider that's halfway across the world? Well, that's when you walk straight into a legal minefield. Imagine this. A company based in Ireland might be forced by a U.S. law, like the Cloud Act, to hand over data to American investigators. But at the very same time, Europe's own GDPR privacy law could forbid them from doing exactly that. The companies are caught in a legal tug-of-war between national security and individual privacy, and it can bring an investigation to a dead stop.
The only way through this mess is cooperation. And that's where organizations like Europol come in. They act as these central hubs. They're not some kind of global police force. But what they do is help an investigator in, say, Spain, get the right legal requests to a tech company in California. They're basically translating not just languages, but entire legal systems. And this isn't just a small-scale effort. We're talking about massive cooperation. Right now, 81 countries are part of the Budapest Convention on Cybercrime. That's a huge chunk of the world agreeing to a common set of rules for how to chase criminals online. It's this kind of framework that makes these cross-border investigations even possible. And here is a perfect example of how this works in the real world. This is from a Europol report. An investigator explains how they caught a phishing scammer in Poland. And how'd they do it? By combining that OSINT work we talked about, the public hunting, with direct, voluntary requests to social media companies. It's a textbook case of how these two strategies have to work hand in hand. Okay, so let's say you've done it. You've collected the data, either from open sources or from a company. But that's really only half the battle. Now you have a new problem, and it's one that gets to the very heart of the justice system. How do you prove your evidence is real and hasn't been touched? I mean, this is such a critical question. You can bet that in any court case, the first thing a defense attorney will do is question the integrity of the digital evidence. How can you prove beyond a reasonable doubt that this photo, this log file, this email is exactly the same as it was the moment you found it?
The answer is an incredibly powerful tool called a cryptographic hash. It's a complex mathematical algorithm that takes any digital file, doesn't matter if it's a tiny text file or a huge video, and it spits out a unique, fixed-length string of letters and numbers. Honestly, the easiest way to think about it is exactly like a digital fingerprint. Just like your own fingerprint, that code is a one-of-a-kind identifier for that specific file at that specific moment in time. No two different files will ever create the same hash. Ever.
And here's the really brilliant part. If you alter the original file in any way at all, change a single pixel in a photograph, add 1 comma to a document, the hash value, that fingerprint, changes completely and unpredictably. It makes tampering incredibly easy to detect.
So, by generating a hash the instant they collect a piece of evidence, investigators create a verifiable digital seal. This is what preserves the chain of custody for the modern age. It gives them mathematical proof that the evidence they're showing in court is the exact same evidence they found at the scene.
Now, all these tools we've discussed, OSINT, global cooperation, hashing, they are incredibly powerful. But, the digital world never ever stands still. And the next wave of challenges for investigators? It's already here.
And as this investigator from that same Europol report warns, artificial intelligence is about to change everything. Criminals are going to use AI to cover their tracks, to create incredibly sophisticated scams, and to generate fake, misleading clues that will make investigations a whole new level of difficult.
And then, of course, there's the problem of deepfakes. Generative AI can now create video, audio, and images that look completely real but are totally fake. This kind of synthetic media attacks the very idea of evidence itself. It just blurs the line between what's real and what's been manufactured.
Which leaves us with this one final, really important question. The tools and techniques of crime are evolving at lightning speed. For every new method investigators develop to find the truth, criminals are finding a new way to hide it. In this new, borderless crime scene, the race between justice and technology is only just beginning.